third time's a charm.
Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of the Paranormal Lens podcast. I am Jamie Widener, along with Chad Thomas and Kirstin Tricano. Guys, what's happening?
Well, I survived the lovely snow.
Snowpocalypse.
Snowpocalypse.
I love we have to name things, Was it Storm Fern, something like that?
Yeah.
It doesn't make it sound any nicer just because it has a soft, fun name, It could have been like,
yeah.
some horrible name. I don't know. I can't even think of one, but it was, you have to name things now. What's up with that?
I didn't realize that we named winter storms.
I name everything, and it's like, okay, cool, I get it, but why? I don't know.
It's just the way things are these days.
I guess. Well, somebody's got rights to it then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Could be worse. As I was a kid and we would get a storm like we got, and I say that we're all in South Central Pennsylvania, for those out there in the world who don't know us geographically, which is usually a place that doesn't get a lot of snow. We get it, don't get me wrong, but we don't get like what we got. Kirstin's area, which is a little north and east of where I am, 12 inches. Is that right?
Yeah, it was about 12 inches.
Oh, okay. I got about 8, 9 here where I live, and then Chad, I'm assuming you're close by, so I'm assuming you got about the same.
Yeah, it was enough that when Maggie went out, it was up to her belly. A little bit further.
Dog.
Yeah.
Right.
I was watching. My husband took our dog out. He had shoveled him like a nice little patch so we can go to the bathroom. My dog decided, no, that's not good, and it was up to his stomach, and he's trying to go to the bathroom. It's like, buddy, there's easier ways.
There is. Oh, what I was going to say, when we were kids, we got a storm like this. It was like, oh hell yeah, and now as an adult and an older one at that, I'm like, oh hell no.
Yeah, I used to like the snow, but now I get colder faster, and it just, it's like I don't want to be out in it.
I appreciate that, and I was be out making money, like shoveling the neighbors' yards and the houses and stuff, and sometimes their yards because they had dogs too, you got to shovel a spot, whatever, and it'd be industrious, going out, and now I'm looking for kids to pay, and there's none around, and partially because my neighborhood doesn't have a whole lot of them, but in the same sense, like most of them are now indoors and doing things that are not, I don't have outdoor neighbors,
Right.
So I was outdoors doing all the stuff.
Yep, they're in playing their video games.
Right. A little jealous.
Yeah.
A little jealous. So, and basically, this is as high as I can lift my arms at this point. I'm lugging, shovels full of snow.
Yeah, Bert says, "Come on, spring, please."
Yeah, I hear you, buddy. Right on.
Unfortunately, they're talking about we were sort of in a trough, and we may get a couple more storms yet. So
yeah, they're in the queue. I heard the same.
No.
Yeah. So
it might be a problem for us this weekend, actually, as our travels take us south, and storm is a brewing down in Southern Virginia area where we'll be with the Hanover Tavern. So,
yep. I want to say hi to Todd. Haven't seen you for a while, Todd. Good to see you tonight.
Yeah, good evening. So, other than snow, anything noteworthy happened this week?
Nope.
Just a lot of work.
It can be no. It always can be no. That just means we have more time for our topic. I'm not going to take more time either way. But
well, Jamie, I think that's a good transition to you. What do you got?
It is. I'll take it. So that's let's take that off ramp, right? So this week we are going to talk about what I'm going to call the glowing people of Barranco de Badajoz, and that's Barranco de Badajoz is a place. Here we go with our map. It is on the island of Tenerife in Spain's Canary Islands. So technically this is Spain we're talking about, even though it is out in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Africa. It is a Geographically, well, as far as geographically, it's a volcanic ravine that's been shaped by erosion and time, and culturally, it exists as a site layered with memory, legend, and mystery. Over the centuries, Barranco de Badajoz has transitioned from an indigenous sacred space to a colonial resource zone, and finally into one of the most paranormally charged landscapes in the Canary Islands. Central to this transformation is the enduring legend of the so-called glowing people, luminous beings reportedly encountered within the ravine's caves and abandoned mining galleries. So tonight, I'm going to focus on this in two different lenses. One is a cultural historical lens, and of course, the other is a paranormal. So,
Okay.
y'all ready?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go.
Have you guys been to the Canary Islands? I mean, it's
No.
No.
right. It's a hop, jump kind of thing. Let's get over there. Yeah.
No.
So it is, I say that because it is one of the places, it's a subtropical island. So it is a very high in demand tourist attraction location. It's got gorgeous beaches. The tourism trade is the main industry. There are, through the seven islands of the Canaries, there are 2.2 million people living there. So it's not a small thing, as far as an isolated or desolated place. Um, so as it is today, at least. But as we'll talk about some of the history, you'll find that it certainly wasn't that way always. So let's start there.
Okay.
So in the historical, geographical, and cultural foundations I'm certain I was wrong. Sorry, bear with me. Barranco de Badajoz is the result of millions of years of volcanic activity and erosion, processes that define much of Tenerife's dramatic landscape. The Canary Islands overall emerged from the Atlantic through volcanic forces, and Tenerife's interior is dominated by basaltic rock formations, lava flows, and steep ravines carved by intermittent water movement. Barranco de Badajoz exemplifies this geographical history, presenting sheer rock walls, narrow pathways, and deep cavities that create an atmosphere of enclosure and isolation. This physical isolation has long influenced human perception of the ravine. Deep ravines limit visibility, distort sound, and restrict movement, producing an environment where ordinary sensory cues are altered. Such environments often foster fear, reverence, or heightened awareness, making them fertile ground for spiritual and supernatural interpretations. Long before modern legends emerged, the ravine's geographical form itself contributed to its reputation as a place apart from everyday reality. Prior to European contact, Tenerife was inhabited by the Guanches, an indigenous people believed to have North African Berber origins. The Guanches organized their lives around natural landmarks, attributing spiritual meaning to mountains, caves, and ravines. Archaeological discoveries in Barranco de Badajoz includes human remains and evidence of cave usage that indicate that the ravine played an important role in the Guanche life. Caves within the ravine were used for burial, ritual, and shelter. Guanche mummification practices suggest a belief in the preservation of the body for spiritual continuity, reinforcing the idea that caves were gateways between the living and the dead.
Hmm.
From this perspective, Barranco de Badajoz already functioned as a liminal space, a threshold between worlds, long before later legends of glowing beings emerged. Pardon me. I
Bless
am
you.
slightly under the weather, so I will try to keep that from happening again. All right, as everybody is this time of year, right?
Mm-hmm.
The destruction and assimilation of Guanche culture following the Spanish conquest did not completely erase these beliefs. Instead, fragments persisted through oral tradition, subtly influencing later folklore. The idea that the ravine was different, spiritually charged, or inhabited by unseen forces likely survived beneath the surface of Christianized narratives. The Spanish conquest of Tenerife in the late 15th century marked a radical shift in how Barranco de Badajoz was used and understood. The ravine was no longer primarily a sacred or communal space, but rather a resource to be exploited. Colonial authorities integrated the ravine into agricultural systems, used it for grazing, transport, and later water collection. This shift represents a broader colonial pattern. Landscapes once understood spiritually were reframed as economically valuable terrain. However, such reinterpretations were never complete. The physical danger and unpredictability of the ravine resisted full domestication, preserving an undercurrent of unease that would later resurface in legends. During the 19th century, increasing population pressures and agricultural expansion led to an extensive excavation in Barranco de Badajoz. Miners and laborers carved underground galleries in search of water, creating long tunnels that extended deep into the ravine's interior. These galleries were poorly lit, structurally unstable, and often flooded, making working conditions extremely hazardous. It is within this historical context that many legends of glowing people originate. Miners spent long hours underground, isolated from daylight, exposed to fear, exhaustion, and sensory deprivation. Such conditions are known to produce hallucinations, altered perception, and intense emotional reactions. Nevertheless, the persistence and consistency of reported encounters suggest that these experiences held deep meaning for those who witnessed them. By the early 20th century, many mining operations in Barranco de Badajoz were abandoned. As practical use declined, narrative significance increased. Stories once shared privately among workers became communal legends. The ravine transformed into a symbolic space, no longer defined by labor, but by memory and mystery. This transition marks a critical moment in the formation of Barranco de Badajoz's paranormal identity. Physical remnants of human activity, tunnels, tools, collapsed galleries, remained embedded in the landscape, acting as tangible anchors for intangible stories. The historical foundation of the ravine thus provided both the setting and credibility for later supernatural interpretations. You want to get to them, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, right? That's why we're here. All right, so let's turn the paranormal lens in this direction. At the heart of Barranco de Badajoz's legendary status are the recurring accounts of direct human contact with the so-called glowing people. These beings are consistently described as humanoid in shape, emitting a soft but unmistakable luminescence that illuminates the surrounding rock without casting clear shadows. Witnesses often emphasize the quality of the light itself, steady rather than flickering, and seemingly originating from the figures rather than reflecting off of them. While descriptions vary in detail, the figures are typically portrayed as tall, slender, and indistinct in facial features, reinforcing their otherworldly character. One of the earliest and most frequently cited instances of contact comes from 19th century mining accounts, in which laborers digging water galleries deep within the ravine reportedly encountered luminous figures blocking further progress. According to oral tradition, miners described turning a bend in a tunnel only to find several glowing figures standing silently ahead of them. The beings did not speak or gesture, yet their presence alone was said to evoke overwhelming fear and disorientation. In multiple versions of the story, the miners fled the tunnels, abandoning tools and refusing to return. The sudden and permanent cessation of work in certain galleries has often been cited as circumstantial evidence supporting these accounts. Another frequently referenced encounter involves a small group of workers who claim to have followed one of the glowing figures deeper into the ravine. According to this narrative, the being moved without visible effort, gliding rather than walking, and led the witnesses through passages they had never seen before. The men later reported losing track of time and emerging hours, or in some versions days, after they believed they had entered. Whether interpreted as literal events or symbolic narratives, such stories introduce the recurring theme of altered perception, particularly regarding time and space, during encounters with the glowing people. In a slightly different direction, in the latter half of the 20th century, the legend surrounding Barranco de Badajoz underwent a significant transformation as global fascination with unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, and extraterrestrial life began to influence how unexplained phenomena were understood. While earlier generations framed encounters in spiritual or folkloric terms, modern witnesses increasingly interpreted the ravine's luminous phenomena through the language of science fiction, ufology, and speculative science. This shift did not replace older legends, but rather recontextualized them, layering contemporary interpretations atop long-standing myths. Reports of UFO sightings in and around Barranco de Badajoz typically describe bright, self-illuminating objects observed hovering above the ravine or moving silently across the night sky. These objects are most often characterized as spherical or disc-shaped, emitting blue, white, or occasionally orange light. Witnesses frequently emphasize the object's unusual movement, abrupt changes in direction, rapid acceleration, and complete absence of sound. Such characteristics distinguish these sightings from conventional aircraft and reinforce their classification as unidentified. A recurring motif in these accounts is the apparent interaction between aerial phenomena and the ravine itself. Some witnesses claim to have observed glowing objects descending into the depths of Barranco de Badajoz, disappearing behind rock walls or seemingly entering cave systems. Others report lights emerging from within the ravine and ascending to the sky. These narratives suggest a spatial connection between the subterranean environment and the aerial phenomena, leading to speculation that the ravine functions as a point of access, concealment, or transition. Within ufological interpretations, this perceived interaction has fueled theories that Barranco de Badajoz may be located near a geomagnetic anomaly or energetic nexus capable of attracting or fascinating non-human entities. Proponents of such theories argue that volcanic landscapes rich in mineral content and electromagnetic variation are frequently associated with UFO sightings worldwide. The Canary Islands volcanic geology thus becomes a crucial factor in explaining why the ravine appears repeatedly in modern encounter narratives. These UFO interpretations also reshape the identity of the glowing people themselves. Rather than spirits or angels, they are reimagined as extraterrestrial beings, interdimensional visitors, or advanced intelligences operating beyond human comprehension. Descriptions of the glowing figures are silent, observant, and technologically advanced, align closely with the global contactee narratives, in which non-human entities communicate non-verbally and exhibit superior control over time and space. These beings' apparent ability to induce paralysis, distort time, perception, or guide humans through unfamiliar environments further supports this reinterpretation. Importantly, these modern narratives do not emerge in isolation. They reflect broader cultural trends shaped by media, scientific discovery, and Cold War era anxieties about the unknown. As space exploration expanded human awareness of the cosmos, the possibility of extraterrestrial life became increasingly plausible within the public imagination. Legends like those of Barranco de Badajoz adapted accordingly, translating ancient mysteries into contemporary terms without losing their core elements of wonder and fear. Skeptical interpretations, however, point to alternative explanations such as drones, atmospheric phenomenon, ball lightning, or psychological priming. The ravine's isolation, darkness, and dramatic topography may amplify misperception, while knowledge of its legendary reputation could influence how ambiguous stimuli are interpreted. Nevertheless, the persistence and consistency of UFO-related accounts suggests that these experiences carry significant meaning for those who report them, regardless of their ultimate cause. From cultural perspective, UFO sightings at Barranco de Badajoz illustrate how myths evolve to remain relevant. The ravine becomes a canvas on which each generation projects its deepest uncertainties and curiosities. Where once the unknown was framed in religious terms, it is now explored through the possibility of cosmic intelligence and advanced technology. In this sense, UFO narratives do not replace the spiritual interpretations but coexist with them, offering alternative explanations for the same enigmatic phenomenon. And speaking of potential spiritual explanations, another different direction. This is a windy path we're going to take tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So, among the various interpretations of glowing beings of Barranco de Badajoz, the understanding of these figures as angelic apparitions holds particular significance within the religious and cultural framework of Tenerife. The Canary Islands have long been shaped by Catholic tradition, and for centuries, spiritual phenomena have been interpreted through Christian symbolism. Within this worldview, manifestations of unexplained light, radiant humanoid forms, and silent, non-threatening presences are often associated with angels, divine messengers or guardians acting as intermediaries between God and humanity. Eyewitness accounts that support this interpretation frequently describe the glowing figures as tall, robed beings emitting a soft white or golden light, closely resembling classical depictions of angels found in religious art. Unlike more frightening supernatural entities, these figures are consistently portrayed as calm and benevolent. Witnesses often report an overwhelming sense of peace or reassurance during the encounter, even when fear initially arises from the unexpected nature of the apparition. This emotional response is central to the angelic interpretation, as Christian theology emphasizes angels as protectors rather than threats. In several accounts, individuals claim that the glowing beings appeared during moments of vulnerability or distress, such as when a person became lost in the ravine or felt overwhelmed by its isolation. In these narratives, the figure's presence seems purposeful, guiding individuals away from danger or preventing them from venturing deeper into hazardous terrain. Although the beings rarely speak, their role as silent guides aligns with the theological concept of guardian angels, who are believed to watch over humans without overt interference. Historically, Tenerife has been a site of reported religious apparitions beyond Barranco de Badajoz, reinforcing the tendency to interpret anomalous experiences through spiritual lenses. Apparitions in miraculous light reported elsewhere in the Canary Islands provide cultural precedent for associating light with divine intervention. As a result, the glowing figures of the ravine are often integrated into a broader tradition of sacred encounters, rather than viewed as isolated or anomalous events. From a theological perspective, light holds profound symbolic meaning in Christianity. It represents divine presence, truth, and transcendence, as expressed in biblical passages describing God as light and angels of being of radiant purity. The steady, non-binding luminacy attributed to the glowing people mirrors these descriptions, reinforcing their interpretation as manifestations of sacred rather than hostile forces. This symbolism contrasts sharply with darker supernatural imagery often associated with fear or malevolence. Psychologically, interpreting the glowing beings as angels may serve as a stabilizing function. In an environment as imposing and disorienting as Barranco de Badajoz, framing an encounter as divine protection offers emotional support, comfort, and reinforces faith. This does not necessarily diminish the sincerity of the experience. Rather, it demonstrates how deeply belief systems shape perception and memory. Experiences that might otherwise be interpreted as terrifying or inescapable become meaningful and even reassuring within a religious framework. At the same time, the angelic interpretation coexists with other explanations, including extraterrestrial and interdimensional theories. This coexistence highlights the flexibility of myth and belief, and as the same phenomenon can be understood in radically different ways depending on cultural context. What remains constant across the interpretations is the sense that the ravine is not an ordinary place, but one imbued with presence and intention. Ultimately, the angelic apparitions associated with Barranco de Badajoz reveal as much about human spirituality as they do about the ravine itself. They demonstrate how encounters with the unknown are filtered through cultural memory, religious symbolism, and personal belief. Whether the glowing figures are understood as literal angels, symbolic manifestations, or psychological responses to an extreme environment, their role within the religious imagination of Tenerife reinforces Barranco de Badajos's enduring reputation as a place where the sacred and the mysterious converge. So that's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one more. So this one I find probably the most interesting. Among the many legends associated with Barranco de Badajoz, none is as evocative or as central to its metaphysical reputation as the story of La Niña de las Peras, commonly known as the Pear Girl. According
Wait,
to legend,
what was that? The
La
pear?
Niña de las Peras, or commonly known as the Pear Girl.
Okay.
Okay, pears in the fruit.
Yep.
Right. According to legend, the Pear Girl was a young child living in a nearby rural community during the 19th century. One day, she ventured toward Barranco de Badajoz to gather pears a common activity in the agricultural life of the region. As evening approached and the child failed to return home, her family and neighbors began searching the ravine. Despite extensive efforts, no trace of the girl was found. Days turned into weeks and eventually years, during which time the community came to accept that the child had been lost, either to an accident in the ravine's dangerous terrain or to an unknown fate hidden within its depths. However, decades later, the girl reappeared under circumstances that defied rational explanation. She was discovered alive and unharmed, yet unchanged in age or appearance, as though no time had passed for her at all. While those who recognized her had grown old or passed away, the child remained exactly as she had been the day she disappeared. This stark contrast between her physical state and the passage of time in the outside world forms the core mystery of the legend. When questioned, the girl reportedly claimed that she had not been gone long, only a few hours or days maybe at most. She described being awakened by a tall, luminous figure dressed in white, who spoke gently to her and guided her into the ravine. According to her account, she was led through a cave or underground passage to a place illuminated by a soft, unnatural light. There, she encountered other beings similar to her guide, silent, radiant figures who observed her but did not harm her. The girl's description of this realm emphasized its calm and timeless nature. She felt neither hunger nor fear and experienced no sense of prolonged duration. Time, as she understood it, appeared to have ceased functioning altogether. Eventually, the luminous being led her back to the surface world, returning her to the edge of the ravine as effortlessly as she had been taken. This narrative introduces a powerful metaphysical theme, the separation of human time from other forms of existence. The girl's experience suggests that within Barranco de Badajoz lies a place or space where linear chronology dissolves, replaced by a suspended or cyclical state of being. Similar motifs appear across global folklore, particularly in Celtic fairy legends, where mortals enter enchanted realms and return unchanged while generations pass in the human world. That feels like it should be an episode, right? Hint? Okay. In these traditions, time distortion serves as both a warning and a mystery, reinforcing the danger of crossing unseen boundaries. Psychologically, the Pear Girl legend may reflect communal trauma and loss. The disappearance of a child represents a profound emotional rupture, and the story's resolution, her miraculous return, offers symbolic closure rather than literal explanation. From this perspective, the narrative functions as a means of processing grief, uncertainty, and the human inability to accept irreversible loss. Metaphysically, however, the legend elevates Barranco de Badajoz to the status of a threshold between dimensions. The glowing beings act not as captors, but as custodians of a realm beyond human perception. Their role in returning the girl suggests intent and awareness, reinforcing the idea that the ravine is governed by intelligence operating under different existential rules. Ultimately, the legend of the Pear Girl encapsulates the essence of Barranco de Badajoz's mystique. It weaves together themes of disappearance, altered time, benevolent otherworldly beings, and the fragility of human reality. Whether interpreted as folklore, physiological symbolism, or metaphysical speculation, the story positions the ravine as a place where ordinary reality dissolves and where encounters with the unknown leave lasting marks on collective memory. So let's conclude. The legend of the glowing people of Barranco de Badajoz endures because it exists at the intersection of history, landscape, and human imagination. Far from being a collection of isolated supernatural anecdotes, these narratives are deeply rooted in the ravine's physical environment, its long history of human interaction, and the cultural frameworks through which unexplained experiences are interpreted. By examining Barranco de Badajoz through historical and metaphysical perspectives, it becomes evident that the site functions not merely as a geographical location, but as a symbolic place where the boundaries of reality are continuously questioned. Historically, the ravine's transformation from a Ganche sacred landscape to a colonial resource zone and finally to an abandoned industrial site created layers of meaning that shaped how people experienced and understood the space. Indigenous spiritual associations, colonial disruption, and the physical dangers of mining contributed to an atmosphere of reverence and fear that persists to this day. The abandoned tunnels and caves serve as intangible reminders of human intrusion into the depths of the earth, reinforcing the perception that certain spaces were not meant to be fully explored or mastered. The paranormal accounts, particularly those involving glowing humanoid figures, cannot be separated from this historical context. Whether interpreted as spirits, angels, extraterrestrial beings, or psychological manifestations, glowing people consistently appear as silent observers rather than aggressors. Their role as watchers or guardians aligns with global mythological archetypes, suggesting that such figures emerge naturally when humans confront environments that overwhelm ordinary perception. These encounters challenge conventional notions of reality, forcing witnesses to confront the limits of knowledge and understanding. The metaphysical dimension of the legends, most powerfully expressed through the story of the Pear Girl, introduces the concept that temporal distortion and alternate states of existence. This narrative positions Barranco de Badajoz as a liminal space where time, identity, and physical laws lose their familiar structure. Such stories resonate across cultures and eras, reflecting universal anxieties about loss, morality, and the passage of time. In this sense, the legend serves not only as folklore, but as a symbolic exploration of deeply human concerns. Ultimately, the significance of Barranco de Badajoz lies not in whether the glowing people exist in literal sense, but in what they represent. They embody humanity's enduring fascination with the unknown and our instinctive recognition that certain places resist complete explanation. The ravine continues to attract visitors, researchers, and storytellers because it invites contemplation rather than closure. It stands as a reminder that mystery is an essential component of cultural identity and that some landscapes function as mirrors for our deepest fears, hopes, and questions. In preserving and retelling these legends, the people of Tenerife maintain a living connection to their past while engaging with timeless metaphysical themes. Barranco de Badajoz remains, therefore, not only a site of historical and natural importance, but a powerful symbol of the fragile boundary between the known world and the vast unexplored realms that lie beyond human certainty. Let's cite some sources and we'll discuss. First is moonmausoleum.com / the glowing people in the mines of Barranco de Badajoz. The second, tenerifeweekly.com / 2022 / 11 / 29 Legends of Tenerife, the Barranco de Badajoz -2. And the last is ghostxshop.com / glowing people in the mines of Barranco de Badajoz. Guys, let's go. Right?
Road trip.
Right. Oh my gosh.
I'm down.
I could go. You know, it's a tropical island, first of all. Hey, we just talked about a foot of snow. Right? And it's summer there. It's technically in the southern hemisphere. But you know, wow, there's so much depth here, pun intended, perhaps, considering the mining and the ravines and all the stuff. But it's Chad. You've been to Hawaii, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so you have these beautiful beaches, right? That
Yep.
wonderful, fantastic views. The experience that a beach is, and then you go an hour inland and you're in the middle of a jungle or on a mountainside.
Right.
That is exactly what this is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in the Atlantic instead.
Right.
Uh,
It
a rugged
reminds
terrain, a dangerous place, and uniquely different than all of the beautiful places that are along the coastlines.
right. It reminds me of also when I was in Southeast Asia in Brunei, because you'd have the same thing. I mean, the beaches were weathered; they weren't pristine like But you would go out to islands and you'd have that pristine beach, but you would go in and again, you disappear.
Yeah.
When I was in Brunei, the headhunters had taken the last human like 2 decades earlier. So these places are still just natural. Like it just so. But yeah, this sounds amazing. and the pictures are stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once they got started, I forgot to get them moving, but that's
Well, they're there now, so
yeah.
that's the beauty of that. They'll catch up. Um, what do you guys think? I mean, there's a couple layers here of
There's
stuff,
there's
and
definite layers. I really enjoyed. I guess I'm going to talk about it since we lost Kirsten here. Um, I really the last story. That just that we talked about time slips a couple weeks ago, and here
right.
we've got one that's part of this story. To have someone disappear for decades and then come back and have only been gone what seems like moments.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really amazing in my head. So it's did it happen? We don't know, but the stories are there.
Mm-hmm.
It's intriguing, and it just that amazes me. And it just the fact that these people took care of her, they were just stewards to her, and yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
That was got a great point. Beautiful road trip. Absolutely.
I mean, at least they're nice. Could have been worse. They could have did worse things to her.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, it takes me this whole there's a lot of things here. Let me just say this quickly because you mentioned the time slips episode, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 episodes we've done so far of our 138 or 9, whatever it is now, episodes total.
Mm-hmm.
But the one, especially when the individuals were in the caves, they were lost, frightened, perhaps, the third man syndrome episode came to mind. The otherworldly presence that guides someone along to safety or security.
Right.
The concept of an abduction, the Travis Walton episode, which we did not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You did a really good episode, Chad, on the Green Children of Woolpit last season.
All right.
And a kind of underground community of being. The Mount Shasta episode, the same idea there. There's a community under the mountain. Tommyknockers episode, the miners and their support of themselves and their beliefs of something extra being there to help them get home safely every night. The Dark Watchers episode, a otherworldly being visible from a distance, but not necessarily engaging with you, regularly. Having the gang from Penn State, doing the folklore episode,
Right.
For sure. And then, of course, all the episodes we've done on urban legends.
Right.
There's so many
Well,
ties to all of that stuff happening all here in one bundle. It's so
right.
like
Well, and
it's great.
I think we also had the Icelandic elves.
The Holderfolk.
Holderfolk, yep.
Yeah. Like that's just this one just kind of touched so many things for me as I was researching it and getting it ready. I was like, wow, yeah, there's that. Oh yeah, there's that. Oh yeah, there's that. So folks, if you're new to us, there's a lot of other episodes back there to catch up on all of those and a whole lot more. But man, and I really, I guess I appreciate especially, the consideration of the workload and the stress and pressures that miners must be under. I have family, in the past who were, came from the mines of West Virginia. And I've heard stories, my uncles, my great uncles, I'm sorry, I've passed along stories, of the conditions and, sometimes not knowing if they were coming home, like just stuff would happen, a rock fall would happen and, they were close to it enough to, could I be next?
Right.
And luckily they made it home every night. So to share their stories, but it's just like there's enough stress and pressure there that having a moment like that could happen, and
Right.
this would kind of tie to the third man syndrome where you have that that extra guide to help move you through the place and to get you safe.
Bert said, "Journey to the center of the earth?" Question mark.
Kinda, right? I like the idea of Land of the Lost instead. but that's just my 70s kid in me. So hang out with this Lee Stacks.
Never heard of that.
Oh, jeez.
All right, you got homework.
I'll watch it at the
Put that
Airbnb in Hanover.
put that in your queue. Okay, if you can find it, guys.
Yeah, I'll put it in my queue.
Yeah. All right, fine.
It's got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah, it's too good to lose.
Yeah, but it seems like this also ties religion in with part of it becomes religious. With thinking it's the guardian angel, which there's a whole episode in itself. We could talk about guardian angels and stuff like that.
Hold on a second, Kirsten. I think this one's for you. What? Seriously? Way to go, Heather. Give it to her.
We'll be the youngin' over here, not knowing what the elders are saying.
Oh, man. Fine.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we had to bring some youthfulness to the podcast, right, Jamie?
What were you thinking? Holy cow.
Just a little bit.
So,
apparently.
Yeah, but yeah, like it did tie into religion as well. So there's another fork down another road, and it seems this is pretty cool at tying so many things together.
Yeah,
and
it does. You're right.
So yeah.
I think, I can tell you, we have a schedule, right? That's how episodes get up, and I've contemplating putting angels on the schedule at some point so many times over. And it's such a big topic, like a big opportunity. Like how do you get it to a place where you can present it?
There's a lot in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And angels and demons, either way. I mean, wherever you want it to be, but because you have to show both, and it to be fair, the equity. And so I've just said, I'll get there. But this touched on so much of it. It's another. It brought back the desire to get there. So at some point we'll do it. I'm sure of it, but it might have to be a broken. Part, kind of in parts.
Honestly, to me, it's kind of horrifying when they said, "Oh, yeah, there's stories of them looking like biblically accurate angels." I'm like, I don't know if I'd want to see them then. If for those who don't know, angels in the Bible are horrifying.
Okay.
So I don't. I'd rather just see the giant glowing person that looks very alien-like.
Yeah, but again, here we're talking about paranormal and how each person interprets is the word is based upon what their background is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one person may see the same thing and it looks like a biblical angel, and another person may see the same thing that it's how they were meant to see it, how their past and forces them to interpret it. So.
Their influences, yeah. Right.
So, and what they need to see at that time. So, like, obviously, if you were there, you would not need to see a biblical angel because that would scare you. Whereas these people don't seem to be scary.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool about the paranormal. It adapts to each. Everybody's sense of it is different because of how what their background is. So
yeah.
Well, talk about a rabbit hole we could go down. We're hitting a lot of rabbit holes tonight.
We are. We'll slide into this a little bit too, though, with Heather's comment. I like the celestial being and third man theory. Aliens just freak me out.
I'd be fascinated with the aliens.
Well, and that's a whole nother thing, though. And all right, guys, I'm going to come clean. I found via my Disney Plus subscription, which has Hulu associated to it, that all of the X-Files are available.
Yes.
Okay. So I've started rewatching, and I've watched them all before, but there's like 11 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole I want to believe process, like, and it, the core of the show is aliens.
Right.
The other variable cases just kind of add color and kind of flare. But the idea that the alien side of it, has, and I think in the second episode, the guy that becomes Deep Voice, whatever he is, the guy that gives him information, says they've been here for a very, very long time. That's already set in the stage. We have a fascination with the stars, and not the stars being like Hollywood people, but like space.
Mhm.
And there was a window in the 70s where uh, UFOs kind of became pop culture, and Project Blue Book was a thing. The government finally acknowledged that it existed. The idea that we brought it into programs, visible things that we could see versus television, movies, all that stuff. Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out in the 70s. And it just took our eyes upward and opened our minds to these ideas. And then everybody was seeing a UFO, right?
Mhm.
Like
Right.
all over the place, all of a sudden these sightings. And Chad, I think if you recall, um, we were at the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, and there was a booth, a guy who had a chart of UFO sightings around the U.S. Do you remember that? A pin
Mhm.
chart?
Yep.
And it was huge. Like this,
Yep.
obviously it's huge because it's a map, but the amount of points noted on this were massive. Like just how many there were all over this thing.
Hmm.
And that kind of proves my point. Now I'm sorry we can't show that here. I'm sorry, but the idea that someone was out there tracking and documenting these, placing these pinpoints, and it grew to this huge thing, and the idea that we've all seen something, and the reclassification of UFO to UAP helps, I guess, a little bit. Instead of an unidentified flying object, now it's an unidentified aerial phenomenon, which could open up so many more things. Like the concept of ball lightning happens, um,
Hmm.
vertical lightning or horizontal
Mhm.
lightning shafts. Um, there's stuff. The Brown Mountain Lights, kind of line into that. Back when we did that episode, it could be that's a UAP maybe based around ball lightning,
Right.
um, maybe anyway. So we have opened up so much over these last 30 or 40 years of opportunity that, and I like the concept, and I expressed it, that the cultural narrative, like the culture has changed, but it only expands on the narrative of Barranco de Badajoz. It doesn't take anything away
Right.
once we've progressed with all these new things and technologies and access to things. The things we can capture is better and more visible things. We're paying more attention, yet nothing has really changed there. It has continued as well. It hasn't stopped because it's past. It's still an active location, which I think is really, really cool.
Hmm. Um, Going back for a couple comments here.
Mm.
Stefan said biblical angels could be at least one episode themselves, which we sort of alluded to.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
you're right.
I actually have a thought on this. I think maybe we should make this a three part episode, and we each take a part of it per week. I think we'll have to do a little bit of planning on this one.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
that'd be cool.
I think that could be interesting. So,
Yeah.
um, and then Heather said, Kai and I just talked about watching X-Files with me. Probably could not get her interested in Land of the Lost. So,
You never know. You got to try.
and
You can
then
find it.
Stefan said bog lights.
Yep. Another one.
Um,
Yeah.
so another TV show that's sort of paranormal linked that I found again, and I think your household found it before though, is Warehouse 13. Um,
Yes.
that's on Amazon Prime Video right now.
Yep. Yeah. That's a
So,
standard here as well.
so I've started rewatching that one with Emmy recently.
Very cool.
So
Okay.
yeah.
That was always fun. There's never a bad episode there either.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, this was definitely an interesting one. I had, to be honest with you, I've never heard of it, Jamie. So
Of course. Yeah,
thank
well,
No,
I
I
hadn't
haven't either.
either. And it's funny. I don't remember how I found it. I really don't. I have a journal I keep with me. I carry it like in my lunch pack kind of thing, just a tablet, a notepad,
you.
and I wrote in it. Yeah, I wrote in it, um, a long time ago, probably 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And My English is very, very good. And just to circle back looking for topics, and I was like, okay, let's look at this. What is it? And then started Googling and, then finding more and more information. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely what we should do this.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is the perfect episode in a sense for how we do things, like we're not, we can always go out and do the big places and the things. And I think one of the things that I like about us and I'm tooting our horn here. I'm sorry, self-promotion, but we have talked about things that are not on the beaten path,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with those places and those things. But
Right.
these kind of things excite me, and those are the things that I'm trying to find for us, and I'd like to explore and discuss because it opens up a conversation about something we had no idea about.
Right.
Because it's a place to go someday. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That's when there's a foot of snow on the ground.
Someplace warmer.
Any place warmer at this point.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thanks, Chad. I appreciate the comment, and I'm really happy to do this one.
Yeah. Good. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to pull up something here. You were talking about the pin map earlier, Jamie. This is not that, but here is a
Heat map. Yeah.
heat of reported sightings.
Yep.
Wow. It's interesting how like the eastern side of the United States has more.
Mm-hmm. And if you notice, they also clump along some of the parallels of
Yeah.
the which I found another map that shows that there's a lot that just clump along the 3 or 4 main parallels across the center of the country. So, but yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I'm trying to figure out where this image came from. It's Medina et al. Is what it says. So anyway, so
wow. Yeah, that's something. I mean, the the arts and crafty person in me, was like I was really impressed by the pins because we took the time to manually do it all. But I mean, this is just as much and probably more. I don't know, but it's incredible.
Yeah.
The amount of these are if I'm not mistaken, these are only well, they have to be ones that have been reported.
Right.
It wouldn't be noted otherwise, but just the sheer volume is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going on.
Mm-hmm. Something's out there.
The truth is out there.
The truth, and we are not alone. So
No, we're not.
I'm going to just throw trust no one in there because I got through all the taglines. But
So, well, on that note, let's talk about what else is coming up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Since we're not alone.
Yeah, we're not alone. So next week is the man, the myth, the Mothman. Very excited for this one.
I know you've been talking about this for a long time, Kirstin.
Favorite cryptid.
Uh-huh.
So after that, we have Chad doing the Elemental Echoes, Ancient Forces, and Modern Encounters. Then next on the 17th will be Jamie. Between River and Legend, the Legend of the Loveland Frogman. And then on the 24th, I'm back with the Tower of London, Crowns, Chains, and Ghosts. And then March 3rd, we have Chat again, where Silence Screams, Kings Park Psychiatric Facility.
Ooh.
That was another one that came up somewhere in one of our podcasts, and I'm like, oh, let's grab that one. So,
yeah,
that one looks interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they all look interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And just days away now for us. We're going to be at Hanover Tavern Paracon. Come see us. Give us your stories. We'll listen. We'll also have Steve Dills there, he's been working hard on this, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's his middle name is Hardworking. Like
Steve Hardworking Dills.
There's a hyphen in there, but Yeah, and Steve obviously is a good reason to go anytime he's
Oh
somewhere
yeah,
to see him. But there are a ton of presenters, there are a ton of speakers, a lot of vendors, people with stuff, like the guy that was at the bash, just had a booth with all of this
Mhm.
UFO information. An author, a lot of books there, a lot of stuff like that. So, if you're at all out and about in the Hanover, Virginia area, which is just north of Richmond, Friday or Saturday this week, come stop by and see us and see everyone. It will be time well spent.
absolutely.
Friday is 12 to 6 and Saturday is 11 to 7.
Yeah. Now, if you're wanting to get in contact with us, you can either go to jotnixparanormal.com. You could also email us at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can also go to our link tree that is linktr.ee/paranormal lens. Or if you want to help support the podcast in any way, there's also Buy Me a Coffee. And that is at buymeacoffee.com/paranormal9. And that is mainly just to kind of help us keep the podcast going.
Cool. Catching up on a couple comments here. Stefan said, especially contrasting with Cultural Angels, the gentleman who wrote Chariots of the Gods just recently passed away.
Wow.
So,
Oh,
and I want to thank Heather for this comment. That's why we love your show. You're original.
Oh, checks in the mail. Don't worry.
Uh-huh. And I think this was in reference to our heat map. There's a lot of weirdos in the East.
I feel like he's talking about us. I really do.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. And then Heather's like, nope, nope, nope. They freak me out. So
That's fair.
yeah. So yeah, I want to thank everybody for your comments. So,
As always.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're catching us later, send your comments our way, via email. All the stuff Kirsten just talked about. Leave it in the comments of the whatever uh,
The format you're on.
format
Yep.
you're in. Yeah, just
Yep.
we'll get them, and we'll get back to you if it warrants that. So yeah, we
Absolutely.
definitely.
If anybody's been to the Canary Islands or especially on Tenerife or anywhere near Barranco de Badajoz, I'd love to hear about it. Your experience
Absolutely.
there.
Mhm. So yeah. Well, guys, any final thoughts on this before we wrap it up tonight?
Mm-hmm. No?
I have one thing, and it's really simple. I am so looking forward to seeing you guys in 2 days. We have not gotten together in quite a while since
It's
before the
been a
holidays
while.
in
Yeah.
person. This is fun and great to connect here, but there's the camaraderie of being together. I miss you guys, and I'm really looking forward to this weekend. So,
Yeah, me too.
so
Absolutely. Same.
I don't want to wish time away between now and then because that's obviously things got to happen. But I'm
Yeah.
so looking forward to being
Yeah.
at and to finally get to the Hanover Tavern as well. It's been on the list for quite a while, so uh,
Hmm.
let's get it going.
Yeah.
Hashtag road trip.
Yeah.
Hashtag road trip. Hashtag ghost stuff.
So, and we're looking forward to seeing anybody else who's going to be there to see the tavern and what's going on down there. So, I think I saw our friend Stacy Lee's going to be there, Jamie,
I
and
agree. Yep.
several other people. So it's going to be a
The
great.
Berries will be there from the 1912 Hoover House.
Mhm.
Ooh.
They'll be there, and a few others that we know. So, and
Mhm.
of course, the best part is there's going to be friends there we just don't know yet.
Exactly.
That's
Ron
true.
Borders are there, a few others. So, yeah,
Does this mean I have to be a social butterfly again, Jamie?
I don't think I can.
Oh.
I don't think we could stop you.
So
It just happens, Chad. You know that.
yeah,
Okay.
it does. So all right, well, let's wrap it up so we can get one step closer to Hanover, Virginia. So, whether legend or something more, the glowing people of Barranco Badajoz continue to challenge what we believe about the unseen. Thanks for joining us. Stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Good night, and we'll see you next week.